Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are looking at a user mission, and that user mission has in it the F-14 Tomcat. It's made by Ryan, and there will be a link in the description if you want to try it out. One thing that I will say is I had to jiggle the files around a little bit. They didn't go in the correct places when I put them into the War Thunder folder, so it didn't work properly. Make sure the files are in the correct places for it to work. So why, today of all days, am I talking about the F-14? It's been a topic which has been on a lot of people's lips over the last year or so. Why specifically today? Well, the reason why I kept it for today is because if you look at the War Thunder teaser, there are some new aircraft carriers, some modern aircraft carriers that have graced us and will be coming in the next update. And one of those is the USS Forrestal. And the USS Forrestal is an aircraft carrier that the US were operating basically between the 1955 and 1993. And one of the aircraft which found itself on the USS Forrestal is of course the F-14. There are many other aircraft which also found themselves on the wonderful aircraft carrier, but I thought we'd just talk about this one because it's such an interesting one. At the same time as well, and when we think about War Thunder in general, one of the things that has changed massively when it comes to the last set of BR changes is aircraft have gone up to 10.7. This normally means that there is going to be some new high-tier aviation in the game. This is what happened with tanks when they went up to 10.7. There was a big shift and a big addition of some larger vehicles, such as, you know, the MBTs. And I wouldn't be surprised if aviation, the same thing happens, where we get a new top tier. One of the things that so far in the dev blogs, we've had 3 ground ones, no aviation or naval ones. In the teaser, they heavily emphasized ground and also models and graphics, but they didn't show any new aircraft apart from, of course, the Swedish plane, the one which would be very similar, I suppose, in use to the Tomcat, but obviously slightly different because of its capabilities, the Saab 105. So what is the F-14? Well, the F-14 is a multi-role strike fighter. It's a naval-based machine, being supposed to be able to be taken off from aircraft carriers, and also at the same time it was designed to replace the F-4 Phantom, the one that, well, we currently have in game, which would be why it would be interesting if it was one of those ones which was brought into the game. There were many different variants of the F-14, but they were all designed around the same ideas, with a variable swept wing and also the general multi-role idea of being a carrier fighter. So if we have a look at the F-14 in general, it had 2 Pratt & Whitney TF30P 414A turbofan engines with afterburners, and then the B version and the D variant had 2 General Electric F110GE 400s, which were augmented turbofan engines with afterburners. The 14A had 20,900 pounds of static thrust per engine, and the B and D variants had 27,000 pounds per engine, showing the massive difference between the engine configurations which this thing can have. A ridiculous amount of power in this machine, and it needs to have that power because the machine itself had a maximum takeoff weight of 72,900 pounds. Another thing to also mention about this is its max Mach number was 1.88. It is a supersonic aircraft, and also, as we talked about before, has the variable sweep wings, or variable swept wings, which, you know, haven't been in game yet, but could easily come pretty soon. Now, what are these? Well, these are wings that, well, basically can move. You have when they are straight out, and then you have them when they are swept back, if you want to talk about it like that. A straight, unswept wing, so basically the ones where they are nearly 90 degrees perpendicular to the nose, these experience high drag as they approach the speed of sound, and this is basically due to the progressive build-up of sonic shockwaves, whereas a sweeping wing at an angle, which is when they're pushed back, whether backwards or forwards, delays the onset and reduces the overall drag. So it also, unfortunately, reduces the overall span of a given wing, leading to poor cruise efficiency and high takeoff and landing speeds. So basically, at lower speeds, the straight wing is generally better, when as you go faster and faster, sweeping them will help you because of the efficiency angle. So that's basically why the idea of the variable swept wing came about, and it is and would be a pretty cool new mechanic in War Thunder if it was ever added, and I feel like the F-14 would be the perfect place to be able to do that. It also has mounted in the nose a 20mm M61A1 Vulcan 6-barreled Gatling gun. This is something which a lot of you should be familiar with if you've played a decent amount of the top-tier vehicles. The 20mm is incredibly dangerous and also has 675 rounds in it. And of course, being a multi-role fighter, this thing can carry pretty much anything that it wants, especially an American multi-role strike fighter. So what it can carry is AIM-9s, so Sidewinders, AIM-54s as well, the Phoenixes, and also AIM-7 Sparrows, which is pretty interesting. This machine also did technically fly in Vietnam, very, very technically. It never fought actually in Vietnam. It was used as some of the it was used right at the end of it to basically escort out specific troops that were going on. So it never was in combat, but it technically was around at that time. The main plane which a lot of people have been looking for from that era, which could also indicate, you know, with the Carriers edition, would of course be the Crusader, which would be a pretty cool aircraft to see as well. The other things that this thing can carry, it can carry laser-guided bombs, of course. It also has Mark 80s, which of course are just dumb bombs, basically. And then the Mark 20 Rockeye 2, which is a ridiculously large cluster bomb, which is something we also haven't seen in-game yet. And the main thing that I haven't talked about, which it could also carry, are the JDAMs, or the Joint Direct Attack Munition. It's a guidance kit that converts unguided bombs, or dumb bombs, into all-weather precision-guided munitions. So, yeah, it would be able to pinpoint, annihilate stuff as it goes, and generally in-game you can already do this with stuff like the T2 and also the F4E, where they have the bomb marker in ground forces and also air forces, so, you know, it can already happen in a way. But it is something to, you know, think about. It also has a crew of 2, so you have, of course, the pilot and then the radar intercept officer behind him, and then also when it comes to the general use of the avionics, so what else it can carry, it carries a huge AN APG-71 radar, so this is obviously an all-weather radar. It can be able to see pretty much everything. Then also an SAN-130 inertial navigation system, an infrared search and track system, and then a remotely operated video enhanced receiver upgrade. So there's many things to this vehicle, many things that it can bring to the table, which would be new in a game like War Thunder. And since it's American, since we're getting an American naval aircraft carrier, there is always the opportunity of this thing coming to game. But I still think the Crusader is probably a better bet, and also it makes you think, well, what's going to be on the other side? Because there are 2 aircraft carriers there. There are, I believe one of them is also the HMS Ark Royal, the British one, and that had a lot of very interesting machines on it. Notably, you have, of course, the Harriers, then even the Gannet. You could add something like that, or even something else which may have been used during the Falklands War. We'll have to see over the next week what we will be getting in the game. I think the F-14 has an outside chance of coming this update, especially since it's supposed to be quite a large one. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what goes on. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Trigger Hippie, Universe, Conte Baraka, Elove Goat, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Hans, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.